I'm going to introduce Sandy Campbell. She's going to be our speaker tonight. She's an interior design person and is running her own business and has been a member of the guild since somewhere around 99 also. So for quite a while. And she's going to introduce herself a bit, but she knows a heck of a lot about the right materials to use. And, over time, we've gone from green, really cool, and there was great materials out there. And then all of a sudden there was so many materials. Part of it is figuring out, is it really green? Sandy's going to take it away and tell us a whole bunch of stuff about that.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming. My name is Sandy Campbell. My company name is Entero Design. Entero is a Spanish word for whole or complete. So whole or complete design. I went to school for interior design. I have a degree in that. I've been working since college in this industry. So in the mid 90s, I was living outside of Jackson, Wyoming, and I was working for a company out at Denver, and they were doing hotels. So I was going around visiting hotels, talking to them about remodeling and doing all this. And I started to think how wasteful it was, how they were so quickly replacing furniture, carpet, everything that they were doing. It was just, they were just throwing it in the landfill. So it made me really start thinking about, is there another way? Can things be made a different way so that if it does end up in the landfill, it's decomposing properly? Or can we just make things out of different materials? So I started on this quest to find out, what could I find that would really be, what are some sustainable products? And I actually found a few. I found a handful back in the mid 90s. One was a carpet line, carpet without any petroleum products in it. At the time, there was a company making these bed linens, and they were weaving them out of hemp. And if you got a hole in it, you could mail it back to them, and they would fix it and mend it and send it back to you. And there's been like organic cotton bed linens, and I was finding some companies like that were really doing some great things. And I decided to change the focus of my company. Wait. Oh, it's not advancing.
You have to click. Sorry, you're good. It's me.
Oh.
Try now. Is it working?
There we go. Thank you. So I decided to change the focus of what I was doing as an interior designer, change the focus of what eventually became my own company, and to really dial in and figure out what are some better options. Since then, I have worked with people with chemical sensitivities. Have any of you worked with a client with chemical sensitivities? Oh, that never happens. So you know how it is. And I think one of the most rewarding ones, I worked with a client. She was so sick. She had to drive an old car. She couldn't go anywhere in public. She was having a really difficult time, and they built their own house. It took them 4 years to build it. She couldn't even handle the pine sap from pine wood, so she had to use steel stud construction. We had to test every component. I would get a brand new virgin material, put it in, wrap it up so it was sealed, give it to her. She could expose herself and see if she was sick or not. But it was about a couple years after she finished and moved into her house, and I saw her at, of all places, a home show event. And I was like, oh my God, what are you doing here? And she's like, I'm better. She's better. We built a sanctuary where her body could heal, and then she was better. I mean, it's just a matter of so many people, they just reach their level of how many, we're exposed to chemicals every day, all day. So it's like some people, their bodies just reach that max and they can't handle it anymore. But if you create a home that's a sanctuary and let people heal, because while you're sleeping, your body is rejuvenating. That's the most important room in your house to make it healthy. So I also think it's really our responsibility to educate our clients, first educate ourselves and then educate our clients and drive the market. Because I've heard way too many times, well, clients aren't asking for it. They don't know what to ask. It's our job, it's our field. So we need to educate ourselves and we need to drive that market, and we can really make a huge impact and a big difference in what we're doing. So back in about 2008, 2009, I did have a retail store for a little while. I had more employees, I had an intern, and we made it kind of a project to help with some of this research. So we decided then to put this presentation together. So I've been giving a version of this presentation since like 2009, 8, somewhere around in there. So the purpose of it is to really emphasize, how do you dig deep? How do you get down to the truth? How do you understand what is green and what is greenwashing? And I'm gonna share with you some of the research that we did. So we'll start with stone. Stone's a natural product, but what are the environmental impacts? So it's really understanding, and I'm not going to be brand specific, like I'm not going to talk about specific brands, but more about category and the material itself. So the effects of mining for the stone can be really devastating to any environment. I don't specify stone for these reasons. So they're either going in through mines, or most likely they're just tearing down a whole mountain. So they're destroying the ecosystem, whatever's living on that mountain. And then if they're blasting, there's dust, there's noise, there's sound that's affecting all the wildlife. There's dust that's coating the land. It suffocates the vegetation. If they're doing wet cutting, then you get water runoff, which pollutes the streams and can also affect plant life and animals in that area. There's effects on the workers because, as we know, a lot of places, they don't really ensure that their workers are healthy. So they're going to be breathing in a lot of that dust, which is going to cause silicosis. We'll talk more about silicosis some more because that's a big hot topic right now. The water runoff in some countries, most of the stone, we don't really get stone out of the US anymore. So a lot of the stone is getting imported from other countries. And some of those may not have the best labor laws in place. They may be using kids. They may be substandard working conditions. There's also, these things are heavy rocks and heavy pieces of material. There's crushing deaths that happen all the time. There's also a lot of energy used to transport it, but also there's accidents. A lot of them are in remote places. So they're going up these little mountain roads, and if a truck falls off the side of a cliff, they don't have a way to extract it. The person dies. Huh? Oh, I thought I heard something.
Yeah.
So, they won't take out that material. So then it becomes trash, and that, plus a human life has been lost. And also I welcome interaction. I love interaction. So if you have a comment or a question as we're going, just jump in there. So with quartz countertops, for one, are very, very popular. So I'm sure you've heard about the lawsuits against some of the fabricators, like in California, because the workers are getting silicosis. There's also a couple countries that are banning quartz countertop because of this. So we all know that quartz is a problem. We've known that for a long time. It creates silica dust, which is a problem for us to breathe in. And it's not the only thing that creates these issues. My father this is a personal issue for me too, because my father was a tile installer, and he had his own company, and he died in his mid-60s, and he had pulmonary fibrosis, which is basically like silicosis, a lung disease. And he was on oxygen for 3 years. And every time I go to a job site and I see tile installers, I never see them with a mask on. It drives me crazy. So I tell them about my dad and say, please put on a mask. save your life. But we've known since for hundreds of years that silica is a bad product to breathe in. So what I would love to see is manufacturers stepping up to the plate and making sure that if they're going to produce a product, that they're also making sure that whoever handles that product along its different stages is doing it in a way that is healthy for them. So there's a couple of, I've been asking all the quartz countertop brands, there's a couple that they do go visit fabricators to make sure that they are safeguarding their employees, but a lot of places don't. And if we don't have government regulating that, then I really wish that more manufacturers would do that, but they have to do it voluntarily. And that doesn't always happen. So that's okay. I hope my phone doesn't ring. So with wood, the important thing about wood, I'm sure all of you know FSC versus SFI and the difference there. Luckily, FSC is growing and growing and growing. It seems like SFI now has a chain of custody, although I haven't looked into the details of the chain of custody that SFI has. But I know originally it only certified, it does still only certify things in US and Canada. And they did not have a chain of custody originally, but they do now. Has anybody looked into that? Like what their chain of custody is yet or currently? So I think FSC has actually pushed SFI to be better because it's the dominant certification for wood. For a while, California had a CARB 2 compliant law for their state, and Washington had adopted the CARB 2 compliant law so that any plywood or wood composite material didn't have added urea formaldehyde. But the last time I checked, the state of Washington, they're not part of the CARB 2 compliant anymore because the EPA has a standard Title 6, which is for all incoming plywood and composite product that should not have added urea formaldehyde. And it is checked by a third party. So that's actually good if we can make it broader and more nationwide.
Are you saying that the plywood we're getting, even in pure plywood with MDOs, is pretty safe for you?
According, if it's really happening, what they're saying is happening, it should be. Now, it also, I did find out it doesn't apply to exterior grade plywood.
That's
Phenol, yeah, exactly. So, and back in the day, you would at least try to do phenol formaldehyde if you couldn't, and avoid the urea formaldehyde.
How do we see it? The interior plywoods and MDOs are actually okay.
It should have a stamp. It should have a Title 6.
Title 6 is what we're looking for.
Yeah,
EPA Title
the
6.
EPA Title 6. I don't know what the logo or anything looks like, but there should
I don't
be.
know if they have one.
I don't know if they have one either, but I would check where you're sourcing the wood and make sure that they're compliant with that. I love reclaimed wood, but with reclaimed wood, you want to really find out where the wood came from. If it came from a barn, was it painted? If it was painted, I would test it for lead. You want to make sure it wasn't part of like a chemical factory or anything like that. Although I don't know why you would do that in a wood structure, but you never know. Because the chemical vapors could seep into the wood. It also needs to be, cured and dried and make sure that there aren't any insects or anything like that in it. But otherwise, reclaimed wood is a good source. Bamboo, there's a lot that has happened in that industry. There is still one remaining bamboo flooring company, who were the original ones who actually invented or created the bamboo from. Do you have another one?
I'm waiting to hear what you're gonna say first.
Oh, okay. So during the last round of tariffs, it kind of, so many of the bamboo suppliers closed. There was also a big issue in the past, if you've heard, where bamboo it's not a good product. It's denting, it's scratching, it's not a very good material. It wasn't that it wasn't very good. It was because it was manufactured improperly.
I can see the specifics of that if you like.
Oh, I'll keep going. And then you can fill in. So bamboo needs to grow for 5 years. And they harvest it when it's 5 years. So there's this mountain in China, and there's a ring around it where this moso bamboo grows, which is used for flooring. It only grows in this one region. And it's just the most perfect climate. It gets enough rain. They don't have to do anything. It just grows. And when they go in and harvest it, they walk in by hand, harvest it, cut each piece by hand, and carry it out. So, and then they can tell the stalks because they change color when they're at 5 years. And you can tell very clearly identify which you can harvest. So if you've seen a piece of bamboo, it's hollow in the middle, you only have that ring that you're working with. And if you've ever seen, it has a really thin like skin on it. So if you have to cut it, so you're only taking the core, because you don't want any of that flaky skin, because then the product delaminates, right? So you need to kiln dry it so that you harvest it at 5 years, kiln dry it properly, because it holds a lot of moisture. You got to get all that moisture out so you don't get mildew. I've seen bamboo installed that has black specks in it, has mold in it. So in the past, or during, right before, everything kind of shut down, there were also, it gained in popularity. So then you had the big box stores and like the flooring and decor company and people like that ordering tons of bamboo, putting requirements on, you have to ship us a container, you have to get it here by this date, or you'll lose money. So there was like a push for that. And then they're like, oh, it's going well. Now we want 2 containers, same timeline. And so down the chain, they started taking shortcuts. Let's just take a little bit more material, not just the core. Let's take a little bit more. Let's just not dry it as long. And so we can get it out faster. So that's what happened. It was an inferior product. So in one way, the tariffs did help that, because it kind of closed down all those companies. But now there's, as far as I know, one good company who was the original ones to make flooring out of this product. And we can talk about who that was later. Anything to add?
No, you covered it quite well. The only thing I might add, that waxy substance that you're talking about, that really was the catalyst for giving bamboo flooring a bad name, because it would delaminate over time. And we won't name names, but the company that kind of created that mess is no longer doing bamboo flooring, so thankfully that's one. The other part is, if you start talking about things like strand bamboo, when they really compress it for that high Janka rating, that has to be cured for at least 6 weeks.
Yeah.
We're all familiar with greenwood. You can't have that processed, manufactured into flooring planks too soon. It has to sit, it has to cure. But otherwise, yeah. Spot on.
Yeah. I learned a lot of that in the last month, because I was at a big KBIS event, ran into a manufacturer that I know, and just happened to talk to the right person for like over an hour and a half, and just really educated me. So I just, oh my gosh, I just get goosebumps when I get to learn that kind of stuff. It was really awesome. There is also FSC certified land, so that it doesn't impact pandas. Cork. So cork is a great product. I use it a lot. I love cork. It is a rapidly renewable resource. It regenerates itself. You can harvest it every 9 years. A big difference between the cork industry and the bamboo industry is that the bamboo industry was done in China. They don't have a lot of good regulations about how they do things there. But cork, it's mostly all grown in Portugal and Spain. And the government has a lot to say about all that industry. So when they harvest the cork, they lay it out in the sun and it dries just from the sun. They punch out the cork stoppers, and then they grind up the rest of it and make material out of it. So it's got a lot of great qualities. It helps with sound, ambient room sound. It helps with that. It helps to insulate, so many different things. there's a couple of cork companies that have gone out of business recently, so it's kind of dwindling down a little bit right now. So I'm hoping that we can still keep some because it is a great product, even though we're shipping it from Portugal. Especially if you're shipping it to the East Coast by ship, that's not as bad, but we have to then truck it over to the West Coast. So you have an environmental impact of just transportation. Linoleum, I know all of you will know the difference between linoleum and vinyl, but I can't tell you how many times. Yes.
How's the durability for places like a kitchen and bath?
It's great. I mean, I use it all the time in kitchens. I don't use it as much in a bathroom, but you can use it in the bathroom. Years ago, I went to go see Frank Lloyd Wright's Falling Water House. There's cork everywhere in that. And he did put it in the bathroom, on the floor, and in the shower. I wouldn't put it in the shower, but it was in the shower. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. But super durable. And I have two big Dobermans that run around my office floor, and it's fine.
You have recommendations on is it a manufacturer recommended sealer for the pool?
No, it's pre-finished. It's finished. You don't have to seal it.
The sealing is really an important aspect of putting anything regarding cork around a kitchen or bathroom.
Mhm.
The top layer of cork as it stands, especially some of the manufactured stuff that they call water resistant, is water resistant on the top, but you don't want it to get and settle around the edges.
Right.
So if you had a kitchen sink explode, you're on vacation and it settles in underneath, it will swell. But if you drop a bucket of it on top and it's all sealed properly, then you're fine.
And also, I did have it in a kitchen at another house, one of my other houses, and we did have a big puddle of water on it. The cat knocked something off the counter and the dog participated in it. I don't know what happened, but there was a big water puddle, and the cork started to swell up a little bit because it got down into the cracks. If you catch it soon enough, mop up the water, dry heat, went back down, it was fine. You couldn't even tell anything happened.
You're using those sheet cork?
They're plain, mostly there's floating floor planks, and then there are thinner tiles that need to be glued down, and those are like,
They were selling, some company for a while was selling thinner sheets of cork. You like used in your, it's like 4 feet long by like a roll. Like you could put down like.
well, that sounds like the underlayment.
No, it was a real sheet. It was thinner. I have a sample of it. I used it as mat for my
Oh, interesting.
desk. Seems kind of cool, except it's much thinner. But I was curious if you ever used it.
Yeah, I mean, we do, I usually do the cork underlayment under the floating floor, and it sounds like that. It's thinner than that.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with it.
Just like to take a step back to urethane on composite materials. And I answered my question, I looked it up. And so the label, they're all supposed to be labeled, it's EPA TSCA Title 6 is the label on an individual piece or a whole bundle of pieces, including finished products.
Good,
So
thank you.
it's third-party certified. It's basically, it's almost the same standards as CARB. Same certifiers can do it as CARB.
They based it on the California CARB 2 compliancy.
So it
So.
sounds very solid in the last few years.
Yeah.
Previously, it was.
And it's kind of brand new. It's just 2-3 years out, probably.
Yeah, it started in 2018, but it came fully in force in 2024.
Right.
It's called EPA TSCA
Mhm.
Title 6,
Mhm.
Roman numeral Title 6.
I'm used to seeing more stamped carb compliant stuff.
Yeah, I see the
Still.
carb stamp
Yeah.
on, like MDF from
Compliant would be just.
Metri and stuff like this.
Basically this happened.
There's probably still product out there that has CARB 2.
It's the same in
Yeah.
lead.
Yeah.
Could I say a few things about the floor coverings? I've used all of those, the marmoleum, the cork, and the bamboo. And I want to say that Consumer Reports about 10 years ago rated the certain kind of bamboo. I can't remember the name of the company, but they were selling at Eugene's Green store at the time. It had a harder rating than oak wood floors. And I'm very happy with that. However, as a realtor for 38 years, I'll tell you that I've been in some properties that have what you see is that buckling floor. And I was told that one reason is that some leftover machinery from World War II was turned into bamboo making machines. And that's why you get some, you don't want to just buy stuff off the internet. But about marmoleum, I want to just say that marmoleum does not really hold up as long as you might think it would if you have bacteria get onto the thing of mold. And anyway, just you can always cut it out, and but not so good. And then I've also used the about the towel. I learned that if you don't buy the white grout, you buy kind of this light gray. You don't have to worry about the cleaning as much. And the college kids who rented my only rental house, they said, "Kathy, we can't get this grout clean." I said, "Don't worry, that's the color."
Okay, thank you.
Before we move from cork, can I address the durability question?
Yeah.
So your typical old style grandfather's cork, right? It's like memory foam, okay? However, if you put a big piece of furniture on it and then you remove the big piece of furniture, it comes back. If you leave it there more permanently, like months at a time, it will compress permanently, right? So that's your thicker cork, be aware of that. It also scratches easier.
Oh, and it's not UV stable at all.
However,
It fades like crazy.
I'm trying to stay away from manufactured names. There's a newer water resistant, what they call waterproof, but I'll say water resistant cork. It's a thinner material, it's hardened, so then it really does allow for a little more dent resistance, and it is a little more water. So there's a distinguishing characteristic between the two. You want to be aware of.
Yeah, and I always do tell clients if we do cork floor to use those larger casters under every leg to spread that weight out. So that does help with that denting. But yes, it can do that. Yeah. Linoleum, not vinyl. I can't tell you how many clients. So we have this old linoleum, and that's actually vinyl. It's a very different product. It's like Kleenex and tissue. It's like Kleenex is a brand. So I love linoleum. It works well for a lot of applications. It's very reasonably priced. It's just a little bit more than vinyl, and it's super durable and antimicrobial, and it's got a lot of great features to it. And you can do planks, or you can do glue down. The biggest difference: vinyl has phthalates and dioxins. Dioxins have been found in polar bears in the North Pole, so super toxic when they're producing vinyl, but also if it gets incinerated at the end of its life, and then it does last forever. It doesn't break down if it goes in the landfill. It just doesn't break down. I remember going to Build Green conferences and stuff like that, and there was always somebody from the Vinyl Institute standing up saying, "Oh, it's sustainable. It will last forever." It's like, no, that's not it. That's not the point. Like, you don't want it in a landfill lasting forever. That's horrible. So they were always trying to do a lot of greenwashing.
For showers and bathrooms for all the people, I was trying to find, like, you can get a slip resistance rating for a good quality tile. Does linoleum have a slip resistance rating? I couldn't find it.
I'm sure it's got to, but I don't know what it is offhand, because it's used in hospitals a lot and stuff like that too. So there must be. Yeah, it's got to be on there, or contact them and have them direct you to where it is.
Wax it.
Yeah. So concrete, cement. I wanted to dig a little deeper and have a better understanding of cement and why is it such a big contributor of CO2? How does it even do that? So I get on these tangents of like really wanting to understand as an industry and learning a lot about it. So when they decarbonize the limestone, so they heat it up, it releases CO2. And also at the time, what kind of made me look into this was there was somebody who was creating countertops with a low carbon cement. I'm like, low carbon cement? What's that? Like, the first time I ever heard of it. And so I wanted to see why cement releases carbon and how does that happen? And what is low carbon cement, which might be a good thing for the next session, right? It's on concrete.
Next meeting.
I know, so that's going to be great. So there's also CO2 emissions when they're firing, you know, from the kilns, from the energy, from transportation. There's a lot of impacts on that. But with low carbon cement, they can heat up the stone a little bit slower, heat it at a slower level, and it releases less carbon. That's one way of doing it. But now, which I'm sure we'll find out about next month, is that they're sequestering, and there's all kinds of places to capture that CO2 into other concrete products, or there's so many new things I can't even keep up on it right now, but there's a lot happening. So hopefully we'll learn more about that next month. When it comes to recycled materials, there's, for instance, composite countertops. We used to have a local one who's not doing it anymore, but kind of a terrazzo looking material, which has concrete, hopefully low carbon cement in it, and then mixed with different aggregate or glass. It could have recycled glass in it, or it could have bits of shell. Sometimes you see shell, and then it could be a resin or a binder or a concrete. So when I had my store, I had some countertops like this, some terrazzo countertops, and I had a customer ask me, "What is the shell from? And what kind of shell is it?" I'm like, "I don't know. Why are you asking?" And he was a marine biologist. And he said, "Well, I want to make sure it's not abalone because abalone is endangered in a lot of areas." I said, "I don't know, but I'm going to find out." And I found out it was oyster, so we were okay with that. But, you know, when I looked into the abalone, and it is endangered in several parts of the world, not completely, not 100%, but in several regions off of California, it's endangered. So what's happening to the abalone, because of all the CO2 emissions are contributing to it, because there's ocean acidification. So there's because of the higher CO2, the water's pH level is going higher. And then the abalone get withering syndrome, so they lose their ability to grasp onto the side of the rocks. So it's causing them to die. So, you know, you wouldn't think that concrete's related to abalone, but it is. There's so many interconnections like that. I mean, everything affects everything. So let's save the abalone. So metals, stainless steel, a lot of embodied energy when you're first producing stainless steel, but it can be recycled. A lot of steel out there is recycled. And you can recycle it. It's one of those materials that you can recycle it over and over again, and it doesn't lose its ability or its strength or its characteristics. So it's a great material for that. And if you can source recycled steel wherever you can, I would encourage you to do that. Aluminum is another one that's also high embodied energy to create it. It includes mining of the bauxite ore. But there's a lot of aluminum out there, which can all be recycled. Same thing, it doesn't lose its quality. So if you can source recycled aluminum, I just saw lightning out the window. So it doesn't lose its ability to, or any of the characteristics after it's recycled over and over again. So insulation, I do get involved in specifying insulation sometimes. I do a lot of remodel work, so we're doing a lot of that. There's a lot of new stuff out there. I really do love wool. Wool would be my favorite, I think. I don't know about you guys, but it is a little pricey. It's a little bit on the pricey side. So sometimes clients will go for that. Sometimes they don't. And most of it is imported from New Zealand, unless we're sourcing it now domestically. There's also hemp. Has anybody used the hemp insulation? Oh, okay. And so when I looked into it just a little bit, and some of it might have polyester, but some of it doesn't. So just be cautious of that.
3DLC just used doesn't have any
Plasticizers.
Yeah.
Nice.
That means
It's 90% hemp and then just natural 90%.
And it has a higher R value too.
It has a 3.7 per 1 inch R value.
Nice.
So close to rock.
do you have any remaining
All right,
leach stuff that you're composting, or is that compostable?
Yeah, you should be able to if it doesn't have any plasticizers in it. Yeah, yeah, I like that.
And the nice thing about wool and hemp too, and you might probably speaking out of turn here, is the way that it filters moisture. Both do a great job of filtering moisture and keeping its R value even when it gets a little humid.
That is true. Yeah, wool's great for that. So, and hemp is too. And wool's naturally fire retardant, which is great. What are they doing on the hemp for fire retardant?
They're trying to create a all natural bio adhesive, wouldn't really be an adhesive, but a binder that is fire resistant. So they're currently in the works for that.
Okay.
They're pretty big into their sustainable messaging. So they don't want some sort of a fire rated substance that isn't natural. So that's their testing it currently.
Okay. There's rock wool. I've specified rock wool a lot. There is a lot of energy to make it because they are spinning rocks like it's like from like when you make cotton candy, right? So they're spinning it and making it. So it takes a lot of embodied energy to do that, but it has a higher R value, that naturally flame retardant. So doesn't need any chemicals or coatings or anything like that. I don't know of anybody that's doing any cellulose out there still, but I guess it's still out there.
We're certainly still using loose fill cellulose quite a
Are
bit.
you?
It's quite
Okay.
common in the construction industry. I also like to mention that there's Timber HP, which now has wood fiber insulation, both in that's loose fill and rigid for the outside,
Oh, nice.
made out of Maine, and they're thinking of their next plant being in Southern Oregon, and it's a
Oh.
remarkable product. We did a
Will you send me some info on that?
Google Timber HP or look back at a guild meeting about a year and a half ago. We went
Okay.
into detail.
Oh, nice. Okay. The denim is gone. There's some wood-based insulation, but I think it's from Europe. So I'm not sure.
There's a Canadian company now too. Yeah.
A what?
Canadian company now too.
Oh, nice. Yeah, there's so much happening on insulation right now. I mean, I can't keep up.
Was denim a good product? Just didn't find a share.
It had a good R value, I guess, at the time. But
Hard to cut.
it was better.
Blue and gold, but I think
Use it.
It was cool to see the blue denim like all shredded in the walls. It was kind of cool. I mean, it was, I would say that, maybe rock wool and wool and hemp are better than what denim was, but it was the precursor, I guess, to those, right?
Yeah, one more thing that hemp is there's a facility.
Yeah, but then it
I'm
tangles.
working really hard not to mention brands, but there's a facility out of Idaho that creates a hemp insulation. And they used to get probably something along the lines of 75 or 80% of their hemp from Canada. Now they're getting it all harvested in Idaho and Montana. So the carbon footprint is really reduced, as well as any of that border crossing tariffs.
Well, and it's such a great product because you can grow hemp anywhere. I mean, it's really any climate you can grow it in or do it indoors or whatever you need to do. But yeah. So finishes. So I like the natural finishes like natural linseed oil, walnut oil, tongue oil. Some of those are some really good things to use. I have to really drive it if I'm doing finish in place flooring is to really specify that finish. Don't leave it up to the installer or you're going to get Swedish probably, which is very, very toxic. And then while I had my store, I had these really great, they were made out of wine barrel chairs. They were really cool and they were finished in linseed oil. So I'm like, great, I'll bring them into the store. And then at one point I got a fresh shipment and we unpacked and we're like, oh, it smelled really bad. And a couple of my employees were like, no, that doesn't smell right. So I called the company, sometimes when I call the company, I can't ask the rep all the time because a lot of times they don't know. And I have to sometimes talk to the owner, or sometimes the owner doesn't even know and I have to talk to the chemist or somebody else in the company. Anyway, what I found out was that they were I looked up linseed oil first and I found out that the thicker paste, which is true linseed oil, that's fine. You can use that and that's a good finish. But the boiled linseed oil, in order to get it into a more liquid state, they put arsenic in it. And these chairs, when I called the company, I'm like, are you using boiled linseed oil or natural linseed oil? Boiled linseed oil. So they were dipping the chairs in it because it was just easier to do than hand putting on all this finish, I guess. So I said, okay, I'm going to ship the chairs back to you. Tell me if you change your ways. Because this is what, and I informed them, I said, this is what is in the boiled linseed. It has arsenic in it. Just so you know, you might want to change your finish. But I didn't hear from them again, unfortunately. Yeah. So raw materials, a lot of times I talk about how do you, if you just look at a material and question, how do you get a bamboo towel out of a stalk of bamboo? It doesn't look anything like it. There's got to be this huge process to get it into a fiber that you can spin it so you can weave it into a towel. Like, how does that even happen? So this chart just kind of shows like tons and tons of steps of what it takes. And some of them are not the greatest. And how do you get corn, from corn? There's like, for a while, I won't say the name, a furniture store was selling corn-based foam, but it wasn't 100%. It was only like 30%. The rest was polyurethane. And then you have the whole corn industry and the agriculture around that and monocultures and all the issues and the pesticides that you're using on it. So in the end, it's just really greenwashing. You can't recycle it at the end of its life. You can't throw it in your compost bin. So it doesn't really help. So it's really understanding what those processes are, questioning what they are. Because a lot of people don't question them. They're like, oh, bamboo towels, that must be eco. It has an eco tag on it. No, it's not. So I always ask for MSDS. I can't always read them, but sometimes I'll look up what some of the chemicals are on them. If you know a biologist or a chemist, you can send them to that chemist. When I had my store, I learned a lot of lessons when I had my store. So when I had my store, one of my cabinet lines, I only had one cabinet line because they were doing things the right way. And they were going to change their water-based lacquer finish to a conversion varnish. And they knew me so well, they just sent up the MSDS and said, here, tell us what you think. So I did know a chemist at the time, and I sent it to them. And they said, well, the conversion varnish is better because there's an ingredient in the low VOC water-based finish that is in simple green, which causes birth defects. So I sent that back to them, and they said that the conversion varnish finish was better. So they switched to that. So, and don't give up. You have to keep asking. I had this line of like cleaning products, and they assured me they had essential oils, like percent, just essential oils. I'm like, I don't want any synthetic, just essential oils. I talked to the owner multiple times, assured me all of that. After a couple people had said that they couldn't tolerate the scent. And I'm like, well, that's strange. There's supposed to be essential oils. This time I got, instead of the owner, I talked to the chemist. First thing she said, I'm like, are these synthetic or are they essential oils? No, they're synthetic. I'm like, oh my gosh, can you please tell your owner? Because your owner doesn't know what your product is made of. So.
Are there people you can just send product samples to a chemist that they give them the lowdown? Because I read those things like I
don't know if that's like a service. That would be a great service if somebody would read MSDS forms.
Send it to somebody. Can you
I know.
calculate what this really means?
I would say maybe ask around. Somebody might be a chemist or know a chemist. Yeah.
Yeah, I look through those things and I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, gotcha word, like oxide versus whatever. It's like.
Yeah, I'll try to look up some of them, and then it's hard to get to the truth on some of those.
Is that names from the chemical or?
Yeah. You can look, sometimes you can look up like red listed chemicals and like have kind of a list of chemicals that you shouldn't find in things. Or if you do see that word, then oh, that's on the red list. But
It's like, like, it starts with saying like polycolor carbonate. Theirs is an eye, and this one
Yeah.
is not.
Exactly.
It's like, well, same thing.
Same type of question is that have you found the declare labels to be helpful?
I don't know. I actually don't know that much about the declare
Okay.
labels.
If the ILFI, yeah, International Futures, it's sort of like
Oh, yeah.
the manufacturers will certify their product. It's like a third party, it's another third party certification, but it's sort of to do this homework that you guys
Yeah.
are talking about of finding out what's in it and.
Yeah, I went on that website. A lot of it was more commercial products.
Yeah, it is.
So
it
it's like-
is. I was just wondering.
Yeah, I mean, over the years, because gosh, over the last 20 years, there's been various organizations trying to, like there was the bees tools. I don't know if you remember those, anybody, but there were various ones because a lot of it is proprietary information that manufacturers don't want to disclose. So it's like, how do you create a system to have somebody be able to not give out all the secrets, but give you the result of what they find out. So I don't know if there's some new systems out there.
I don't know about new systems, but I love to hear about them. There are. But what I was going to say is that if some product information won't be given out because it's proprietary information, so they claim. But we were told by Dan Morris back in the day that that if you get a customer's doctor to write them, they're required to give out the information.
Oh, that's a good tip. That's a good tip. Get a doctor's note. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, especially like the clients have chemical sensitivities, that's a perfect time to use that. Yeah.
And they have to disclose if the doctor.
That was, I don't know if that's currently, but that was the law, the way it was written. There's that one saying that they're required to do it if the doctor said it for medical health safety.
So we need to get a doctor on board in the deal.
You need a doctor to be an architect and designer. You need a doctor, a chemist, a biologist. But you really do. So these are some just a few of the third party organizations trying to always update this, and there's always new ones. So the key, us as professionals, we really need to educate ourselves. The first thing I started doing was reading. I just read everything I could possibly read. These are just some of my favorite things that I've read. And the film, if you want to know more about the vinyl industry, just watch Blue Vinyl. That was a film from 2002. Has anybody ever seen that one? Nobody ever saw that?
Definitely heard about it.
Oh my God, you got to find it somewhere. I have it. We should do a film night.
Yes, I've seen it in Eugene. We had the founder and a person come here. She actually sold all the vinyl off her mother's house as a fundraiser and made little necklaces people wore. That's what she did with the old
Yeah, it
vinyl.
was a big event when the film was introduced. It's a really, really good film. And then The Power of Community about Cuba and the Accidental Eden is about the pristine waters around Cuba because they were cut off from all ships, especially like tourist ships and stuff like that. So there's this antler coral that only grows around Cuba. And I was in the water snorkeling and I saw, it looked like a tree. It was a huge antler coral that looked like a tree. And it was the biggest thing I've ever seen. And then I watched this film and that's the only place that it grows because it hasn't been destroyed by boats and things. So again, let's drive that market. We have the power to make some changes. Like I did a house for a client and then I did his office and he needed some furniture, a lot of desks, and it was a trading company. So they had a lot of desks. So we were looking at a company in Canada and they all had PVC edges. I'm like, can you please make it out of a wood edge? We don't want any vinyl. We don't want the PVC edge. So I got the company to make it for this client for this job, but then they offered it as an alternative in their line. And then there was another cabinet line I took on and I'm like, I will only take this on if you do wood edge tape. I'm not going to do vinyl edge tape. So we can make those demands, we can make those changes, and it drives the market. And it helps, and we can educate our clients. I usually tell clients, I'm a sustainable designer, so that's just how I do things. You know, if we're going to use paint, it's going to be no VOC. And if you want to know more about things, I can tell you a lot more about what I know, or I can just give you an alternative. Like if somebody wants vinyl something, I might give them an alternative. Here's a better option because of these reasons. So it's really easy to just incorporate into your company, but you have to make it a core value. And then you have to teach your subs and educate them, and you know, but we can make the market, we can change it. So a little quote from Paul Hawken that I like. What do you think? Any other questions? Let's do some dialogue. Yeah.
Have you looked into thermally modified wood and the process of making thermally modified wood?
Yeah, because yes. I really, the one that's from like Finland and heated. I like Luna.
Luna wood? Yeah, Luna wood's good. Arbor wood's good. What makes that a good sustainable product is the natural process that they create in the chamber. They're simply taking out the oxygen, leaving it in a high nitrogen-rich environment.
Yeah, they're not putting any chemicals in it.
And there's no chemicals.
There's no chemicals.
Some of the other ones that you either have like a bio-oil or acidification, which of course the byproduct is acid. But if you can find all natural.
Yeah, and it has a much longer life.
That's the sustainability. You can take
exactly
a wood plank and make it last.
But you know how cedar lasts up here, like 5 years, then it's like you. But yeah, that stuff lasts a lot longer. Yeah, Sage?
Hey, I've got some compliments for Sandy, and then I've got a question or two, but
okay.
I think, and we all know there's a lot of greenwashing out there. And Sandy is one of the folks among us who is totally willing to dig and have that deep dive and really find out. And I'm not 100% sure why we're avoiding saying product names, but I'm going to say a couple.
Oh, it's fine. I just make the presentation product free.
So there's countertop material, one is paper stone and one is rich light.
Big difference.
And to me, before I had a conversation with Sandy, I thought they were pretty identical. But she digs deep and finds out about the manufacturing and which one's better and why, I can share that, and then we can share that with our people and use the correct.
And it's learning the whole history of like who did what first and what happened then and who are all the people involved. Because there's a lot of that.
Stole the rights and created another business erroneously.
Many people who dig in as deep as Sandy does.
Well, let's hear it.
Yeah.
Straight out.
So paper stone, originally the material was made for skateboard ramps. So it's very durable. Super durable. They decided to make countertops on it. There's a person who decided to make it out of countertops, partnered with somebody that they were greenwashing, saying it was sustainable because it's made of wood, because it's paper made from wood. That's what they were touting as being sustainable. Well, that person broke off from that person because I said, it's not sustainable just because it's made of wood. Are you using recycled paper? No. It doesn't really work that great. Are you using FSC certified paper or anything like that? No. What about your resins? Are you doing non-petroleum based resin? No. I'm like, what is green? There's nothing green about your product. So that person broke off, went on his own recycled paper, FSC certified paper, non-petroleum based resin. What it was intent or what they were touting it to be is what it became. But just don't make any mistake about the two different companies. Paper stone.
Rich light is the one
It's a good one.
But I think.
Yeah, hold on. I'm so confused right now, which is.
Paper stone, do paper stone.
And paper stone is in Hoquiam. And if you can drive a trailer down there, they have a huge seconds display. So if you're doing it
So
yourself.
paper stone is the good one.
Yeah, you
Rich light
can
is-
fabricate it yourself. You just have to go really slow with the saw.
Like
You
10
have,
times
it's
everything.
so dense. You have to go
I
really
just
slow.
bring up that one as one example of, yeah, you could dive deep, and not all of us are that excited about diving that deep, but we got resources.
I'm a
Then
geek
I wanna
with that
ask you a
stuff.
question too. I wanna ask you about, beginning of your presentation, you're talking about stone, and you're talking about quartz. What's the recommendation? So
Paper stone.
some people.
Well, we don't have as many choices now because we use we used to have Nova Stone, who closed up and he moved. And then we used to have Squaw Mountain Stone. We had a couple of local ones. Squaw Mountain Stone was created by the UW student, and it was a low carbon cement. That's the first time I ever heard of low carbon cement. Well, there's somebody ran her out of business.
Dust from the monument quarry.
Yeah. Somebody local who owns a tile company ran her out of business, and it was a whole dirty deal. But she's doing fine now, but that material is gone. So countertops are tough because quartz is so popular, but quartz is not a sustainable product. There's a lot of lightning outside. It's scary. There's mining involved. There's a polyester binder, so you can't. How do you recycle it at the end of its life? There's a lot of waste in that industry, both in manufacturing, fabrication, all the dust and the waste. I mean, it's not a sustainable option.
And greenwashing was calling it quartz.
Yeah, because it's not.
It is.
It's a man-made synthetic plastic quartz product.
With dust in it.
So when I was in KBiz, there are all the quartz vendors, and now that was my phone. Now I was seeing silica-free quartz, silica-free all over the place on some of these booths.
How could you have silica-free quartz?
Well, they're like silica-free product. Now their quartz is silica-free. So we started asking everybody,
Quartz is silica.
like I always do, kind of interrogating everybody. If you're not, what's in it? Let's start there. What's in it? Well, there's a threshold of you can have this much silica and still say no silica. So I'm like, are you meeting that threshold, or do you really not have silica? And what's your binder? So one of them said we have epoxy. So I'm like, so grinding up epoxy with silica in it is better than quartz, polyester and silica. Why? It didn't make sense. And then there was another one that they're like, oh, we're using more glass. I'm like, you know what glass is, right? It's sand, silica. Dust from that is still going to be bad for you, right? And then the best one was I went to a booth with these Italian products, silica-free. All these like Italian guys were there. And I'm like, okay, what are you using for your binder? You know, how is it silica-free? Because if it still has silica, is it the binder or what's in it? And he's like, it's a bio binder. And I'm like, bio? What does that mean? It could be anything. Is it plant? What kind of bio is it? And he actually said this to us. He said, well, you know, when you go to restaurants and there's like leftover food scraps, and I'm like, oh, so your company that you work for who's manufacturing these countertops is going to restaurants collecting food and making bio binders out of it for your countertops? Yeah. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. What kind of idiot do you think I am?
So is there a recommendation?
Sandy, there's a request online. Can I share your contact information, email and telephone number with the online website?
Yeah. Sorry.
Sandy, is there a recommendation to use an alternative to quartz?
Well, paper stone,
Mm.
wood. There are bamboo panels that are really nice. Probably lost the people online now. Ooh.
We should get
Our
the viewers to
Wi-Fi
stay here for a while.
Our Wi-Fi is relatively stable. If we lose power, we'll still have Wi-Fi. It's
Oh.
usually the case. Yeah.
We're still here.
Oh yeah, yay.
Yay.
Glad you're here.
I have a question because
Hold on one sec.
Yeah.
Porcelain, there's a lot of embodied energy, but there are some good porcelains that are like clay base and tile, and porcelain would be a better option.
They have those now, and porcelain, every client says, I need to put my hot pan out of the oven on top of the countertop.
Yeah, you can do that
They don't
on,
know about trivets, apparently. but-
I know, yeah.
That's, everybody says that's the one thing, but how many times?
I really like it, so you can do that.
So, for porcelain, you can.
Yeah.
So is it a good fire at all?
Yeah, I mean, porcelain's a great alternative. Porcelain tile, porcelain countertops. It's expensive, but it takes a little bit more on the fabrication side. That's what makes it more expensive than the material itself. And I think that there's a particular, the first ones that came out with it was Decton, and they made it so dense that it was causing the fabricators a lot of trouble trying to fabricate it. So they've changed their formulation a little bit. So I think I think it needs to have another try and for people to use it again.
Is that a tile or a full surface?
It's it's a large slab, large format
Slab.
tile. It's like the thickness of a tile,
Yeah.
but it's a large format.
I just have to leave off early.
Yeah.
I just want to make a quick announcement, just a quick pitch for the next meeting, because Tom and I helped organize it. The next meeting is not to be missed. It's really the biggest opportunity we have in the construction industry for sustainability in terms of climate change is really changing what makes we use concrete. And at the next meeting, we have Dave Landry, who works for Masco, who's known as the wizard of carbon concrete, and been involved in doing research and developing product for 20, 30 years. We have the local union apprenticeship program, which is located here at South Seattle Community College that Stephen who's been doing teaching their apprenticeships for the future for 3D printing of low carbon concrete. And we've just done a printing for our meeting, and we'll be showing us that, walking us across now. Look at that and look at all their cool equipment in 3D printing. And Tom and I will be visiting the week before their printing, and we'll have a video of that as well. And then we have a designer, a landscape designer, who's using 3D low carbon concrete in her designs already. And so this whole thing is about not the future of what will be low carbon in 20 years, but it's what's actionable right now. And Gabe says that we have the potential here in the Seattle area to be one of the international centers.
Right.
We just have to find low risk, practical ways to try it out so we can get enough data so civil engineers.
And we'd love your help with getting the word out about the session, because we'd like to get particularly engineers, but architects and everybody who's involved. A lot of times structural engineers are they're the pinch point. Say, oh, I don't know what that is.
And we're going to have this one company give a little part about what they're doing. This incredible company called Triple Bottom Line. What you guys are doing. I was very impressed with it.
And handling, have some flyers. So if you feel that if you run out here, you can get in contact, I can send you another one, but feel free to post those around.
And we have a bigger room I can meet downstairs.
Screen that I have.
So get home safe tonight or get to the brewery safe.
We're in Georgetown.
I'll probably stay here.
Okay, any other last questions or anything? Yep.
Yeah, so I'm curious where you go with countertops, because Paperstone's great, but it's the colors are limited. Mostly they're mostly dark, aren't they?
They have
They're yellow.
a couple light ones. I put one of their, I forget the name of the color, but the lighter one in my office. A lot of it, I tell clients, you have to oil it, and they're like, I'm out.
You just leave
I'm like,
it for a year and it'll be lighter.
oil it, that's all, come on.
Sit for a year and it'll be lighter.
Lighter, but generally like white or
Right.
countertops.
Hey, I'd like to say a couple things for Eugene here. Please save my 3 posts that I put in the chat. Parts, parts 1, 2, and 3. And my Facebook page is just Kathy, G-I-N-G. And I've saved 4.5 years of hemp building materials. And I'm really into the hemp batteries now, since the 100,000 lithium ion battery factory started in Moss Landing. Then they weren't able to extinguish it. And 70% of all the greens and lettuce grown in this country to feed us greens grows in that valley. And it's kind of the Monterey County, Salinas Valley. So, but there's so much to worry about right now. I mean, I don't know where to start or finish, but I put these 3 posts out there with the idea that the next generation can do the Jedi warrior construction crews worldwide to build sustainable homes and to offer evaluations and to write those evaluations and act on them. And that's what we really need to do, is that too many builders and other people, designers, have such big egos, they don't want to take feedback. And as a result, the a century of built environment toxins that are dumping in our atmosphere in southern and northern California from our houses and batteries that are the energy batteries that support natural gas storage companies, and also Vestra Energy from Texas. So we are really not paying attention in any way to what we're doing, and we need to have a circumferential thinking. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy.
All right, thank you. And thank all of you for attending. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.
Be safe.
When I built my house,
Are you gonna unplug your fish tank so your fish don't go?
most people like, there's a whiter gray, light gray. They do a white porcelain recently. Clients, it was also architect.
It's really a fired tile.
So yeah, big slabs like as these.
Yourself?
I didn't cut it.
Got it, Blake, or do you have?
Thank you. Be safe, everyone.
Thank you. You have time too. Hope you safe commute home.
And they had a.
Hello, amigos. Thank you so
Like a
much.
seamless countertop induction cooktop was actually. So your pot just went straight on the countertop. Well, it's induction, so the pot itself heats up, not